It can be hard to communicate with a toxic coworker. Sometimes their comments will surprise you and come out of left field, or they might be so offensive that you're stunned and you don't know how to respond. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 different phrases that you can use to respond to a toxic coworker on the spot and hopefully deter them from giving you a hard time in the future. These phrases can be tailored to specific situations that you encounter, so let's dig into them. I feel offended by what you just said. Was that your intention? This is a great phrase to use because you are combining 2 powerful methods, the I statement method and the question method. An I statement is a technique that's used in assertive communication to help you convey to the other person what you're thinking and feeling in that moment. It also helps to make what you have to say more personal and to reflect your emotions at that time. In the phrase I shared with you a moment ago, the I statement part of that phrase is where I say, I feel offended by what you just said to me. I feel offended. I feel offended. You're stating how you feel. You're stating how what that person said made you feel. The opposite to an I statement is called the you statement, and it would sound something like this. You're a horrible person for saying that, which, as you can probably imagine, easily makes that other person defensive and escalates the issue. This isn't your aim in the workplace. You don't want to become known as somebody who escalates issues or creates tension. But at the same time, you don't want to be known as a pushover either. So responding with an I statement is a really effective way to help you respond with something and not sound or look like a pushover. As to the question method, I will explain about that in more detail in point 3 when we talk more about the question method. But for now, just remember the phrase, I feel offended by what you just said. Was that your intention? And you can customize this phrase depending on your specific situation. Here's a couple of examples. I feel dismissed by what you just said. Was that your intention? I'm hurt by what you just said. Was that your intention? However you decide to use this phrase for your specific situations, it's a really good way to help you get clarity on what that person said because maybe you misunderstood them and they didn't mean to be offensive. And it also helps them to retract what they said in case they did intend it to be offensive. Number 2, it's disrespectful to tell, say, or do XYZ. For example, it's disrespectful to tell other people their ideas are stupid. This is an extremely powerful phrase to use when you are responding to a toxic coworker because you are highlighting the unfair or toxic comment that they used and you're stating why it is toxic. Most of the time, toxic coworkers will use these fleeting remarks or statements and hope or not expect that people will call them up on it. They're used to people either ignoring or being too passive to respond, therefore they keep using these toxic comments at work because they don't think there'll be any consequences. Until they use it with you, and then you can be the one person who stands up to them and the rest of your coworkers will thank you for it. You can also tailor this phrase to say other things like, it's incredibly rude to say that to a coworker. It's hurtful to laugh at people's ideas when they talk about them. Essentially, you're stating the truth about how their unfair or toxic comment made you feel, but in an indirect or distant way. And sometimes this type of response might be more suitable for a work environment than, say, the I statement, which can sometimes be interpreted as a little too emotional. Number 3, what do you mean by that? This is a question method, and using the question method to respond to a toxic coworker can be really effective for 2 reasons. First, it exposes their toxic comment, and second, it forces them to own up to what they just said to you because they have to repeat and elaborate on their toxic comment. They're being forced to bring it out in the open and publicly talk about what they just said to you. Basically, you expose them as a toxic person in the workplace who needs to be dealt with. I found that this type of response often results in people saying, oh, I didn't really mean that, or it was just a joke. And they start to recoil and deny the severity of what they just said to you. Sometimes they realize they were offensive and it can deter them from doing it again in the future. Another benefit of the question method is that it's really easy to remember. What do you mean by that? It's just a few words for you to remember. So if you are stuck for words when you need to respond to a toxic coworker, like many of us are, this should be one that you can easily recall and use on the spot. Other ways you can use the question method are, can you elaborate? Or, what do you specifically mean by that? Number 4, I don't know if that was your intention, but that comment made me feel uncomfortable. This phrase is a little longer and potentially harder for you to remember, but it's equally as powerful as the other phrases I've shared with you. The key word in this phrase is intention. I don't know if that was your intention, but... And uncovering somebody's intention during a toxic coworker remark or comment is incredibly important. Sometimes people say things without really meaning them. They don't realize they're coming across as confrontational or aggressive. By you clarifying their intention, it helps you to understand where that person is coming from, and it helps you to know whether your feeling or your reaction is accurate. Plus, by saying, that comment made me feel uncomfortable, you're using the I statement, which regardless of their intention gives you an opportunity to tell that person how what they said makes you feel. It's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Other ways you can use this phrase are, I don't know what you meant by that, but what you said was hurtful. I'm not sure what your intention was, but that comment offended me. Are you starting to get an idea that there are a number of ways you can respond to a toxic coworker? If you like what you learned so far, then please hit the like button below this video, subscribe to my channel as well if you have not already, and let's get back to the content. Number 5. Bob, I don't appreciate comments like that. Going forward, I expect you to treat me with courtesy and respect. This is a very assertive and directive statement that might be difficult for some beginners to use, but it is very effective and extremely powerful in shutting down toxic coworkers. So Bob told you your idea was stupid. He said this to you in front of your colleagues. You don't want to let him get away with it and look like a pushover. Instead, you want to assert your boundaries and make it known publicly that you won't stand for this kind of behavior. And with this phrase, you're doing it in 2 ways. First, you're using Bob's name, which helps to single him out in front of everyone else, which could make him become embarrassed or at least look like a jerk. And second, you're commanding that he respect you in the future and not talk to you like that. You're assertively stating what you want him to do or not do in the future, which helps you set clear guidelines for how you want to be treated. Other ways to use this phrase are, Bob, I don't know what you meant by that comment, but in the future, I expect you to speak to me with more respect. Bob, that comment was disrespectful. Going forward, I don't want you to use such disrespectful or inappropriate comments toward me. Some of you may be wondering, how can you avoid becoming a toxic boss? If you want to know the answer to that question, then watch this video right here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you did, and I will see you next week in another video.